Good afternoon, my friends, or good morning to our friends in the El Paso area. Welcome to the MASBA weekly webinar. Today I'm excited. I'm really excited. Nothing more that I love than student voices. Well, before we begin, I want to welcome you, all the participants. Note that on CECs, our webinar platform is tracking attendance and will issue a single CEC certificate to each trustee after the completion of the 10-week series. We want to thank the sponsors for this conversation, which come from Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russo, and Kyle. I'd like to invite our friend Jennifer Hall to give some brief words on behalf of the organization, and thank you for supporting MASBA.
Good morning. Thank you, President Ramos. How are you? My name is Jenny Hall. I want to thank you for having me today. And I'm an attorney with Walsh Gallegos. I'm out of the San Antonio office. And we are very excited to partner with MASBA today for this webinar. As a firm, we were established in September of 1983 with the true belief that public education makes a difference. And that belief and working together with our communities, much like you and the trustees that are online today, really believe that we can affect positive change in our community. And so we're really proud to be corporate sponsors with MASBA. I'm excited about today's presentation. The Student Voice Program is really amazing. What an opportunity, a fantastic opportunity for trustees to hear from students from districts large and small, rural and urban, about what's important to them and what worked well and didn't work well with them through the COVID last, year now. So what a fantastic opportunity, and I'm really excited about that. At Walsh, we try to give you the answers that you need when you need them from attorneys who have a proven record in the boardroom and in the courtroom. We try to, our focus is to deliver the best possible services in an efficient manner to those who set policy, who administer the district, and who teach the children. And we call it helping the people who help the kids. So I appreciate everything. Thank you for letting us be here today. Thank you for letting us partner with you. And with that, I will say goodbye.
Thank you, Jenny, and I appreciate your sponsorship and your support of MASBA and our young people here today. So the reason I'm really excited is a mentor of mine used to tell me that young people make up 10% of the population, but 100% of the future. Anytime we have student voices or student voices panel, I think about my friend Jono Oberly, who's my colleague at Leadership ISD. He has a gift, and that gift he shares with the world is in being able to communicate with young people and translate that in for some adults. I myself have caught myself wondering, what do young people think about what's been going on in the pandemic? We've had a panel before, and we thought it's time to bring it back again, especially since they're on spring break. So we definitely want to give a special shout out to the young people for sharing their time with adults to speak on a topic of what their life experience has been to this point. Young people, we look forward to hearing you speak your truth and look forward to this conversation. Jono, if you would join us now at this time, love for you to take over from this point. I can't hear you, Jono, but can we hear him?
I was hoping to just communicate with you through facial expressions, but now I found the mute button.
There you go.
Good morning, and really excited to be here. Like Cinto said, my name is Jono, and I work with Leadership ISD. And over the course of the last year of this pandemic, my colleague Tamara Harrington and I have been talking with students from all across the state about their experiences within school, and have been helping adults in those school districts have really authentic conversations with those students, not only about what their experiences have been like, but in identifying some challenges that they've experienced and some potential solutions to those challenges. So really excited to facilitate a conversation today. And students, I will invite you guys to turn on your cameras now. We have 3 students who have been able to join us via camera, and then we have 2 more who are going to be audio only. So I'll introduce them as soon as we get everybody on screen here. Welcome, Christian. Good morning. Fernando, Susana, hello. And then also joining us, we have Evelyn from Houston ISD, and we have John from Hayes ISD. You guys can give a virtual wave wherever you're at, even though we won't be able to see you. So we are going to kick this thing off with a classic get to know you question here. If you guys would go popcorn style, so give your answer and then call on somebody else. What is your name? What school district are you hailing from? And what is your favorite out of school time activity, not pandemic, considering not pandemic time? So I understand your favorite activity right now might be like sitting wishing that you could go to the mall or play sports again, but sorry, those things are not allowed. So I'll go ahead and call on Evelyn first, and then we will go from there.
Wow, okay, I'm first. Hi, I'm Evelyn Zelaya. I'm from the Houston ISD district. I'm a senior this year, which has not been as great as I thought it was going to be, but it's okay. We'll work through it. My favorite extracurricular activity would be biking. I love to ride my bike around my neighborhood. Um, so yeah, I can't really see the names of the other people, so I don't know who to pick. But whoever wants to go
That's all
next.
right, Evelyn. I'll pick for you. John, will you go next? John Paul.
Hello, I'm John Paul. I'm my 11th year. I'm from the Hasty ISD district. Outside of the pandemic, I like to travel and play games.
The
Actually,
traveling is pretty hard right now, so sorry to hear that.
yeah, sadly.
Christian, will you go next?
Hi, I'm Christian. I am from El Paso ISD, and my favorite extracurricular outside of the pandemic is student council.
Awesome, thank you. Fernando.
Hi, I'm Fernando, and I'm from Southwest ISD, and I'm in 12th grade. And I would have to say my favorite extracurricular activity would be athletic training, which is at the school, but we don't get to do it as much.
When you're talking about athletic training, are you training other people or are you training yourself?
No, it's kind of like if somebody gets hurt, like in baseball or football, we're on the sidelines and making sure they're not really hurt, and if they're really hurt, we send them where they need to go.
Gotcha. You're just holding it all together over there. Excellent. And Susanna, last but not least.
Hi, my name is Susanna. I'm from Plainview ISD district, and I'm a junior this year. And my favorite extracurricular activity outside the pandemic has to be theater.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump into some questions here. The way this is going to work is I'm going to toss a general question out there and let anyone who wants to respond. I may follow up with some additional questions. And then as we move along in the conversation, I may start calling on some folks kind of to either talk about what they had talked about before or for a specific comment on the question. Sound good? All right. So first question is, like, it is a year ago this week that most Texas public schools had to temporarily shut down because of COVID-19. And school districts tried to figure out sort of how to take education entirely online. And before we jump into like the rest of our questions, would love to just hear you guys reflect on like what those first few weeks were like. Like, what are some moments that stand out to you when you realized, holy cow, like things are about to get a lot different? Fernando, you got it.
So in the first week for me, I was actually at a baseball game for athletic training, and we actually got a remind from the school district saying that we won't be returning the next couple weeks, and they'll let us know. So it was kind of weird because we were all together and we were like, well, what is this supposed to mean? What is this? There's no more baseball this rest of the year. And then going home, you're like, well, I don't have school next week. It's not like I can go out and go to the park or something. They shut it all down. For me, I was thinking, how is school going to be for me my rest of junior year, but going into my senior year? I was hoping it would be better, and obviously it's not. It was just kind of a weird movement for a lot of us, I would have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds like some uncertainty. Evelyn, what do you remember about that time?
So I'm part of BPA, which is Business Professionals America. Well, I was last year. Um, And I just remember that that week that we went to our state competitions, we were in Dallas, and then everybody was like starting to get into the whole COVID, like how you meet people with your feet instead of like shaking hands and everything. And it was like at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I remember we came back from like our competitions and that, and then everything just like shut down. And then my teacher, which was our advisor for the BPA, was like, "Aren't you so glad that we went to the Dallas before everything shut down?" And then I was like, I guess. But now it was like everything just like completely shut down. Like we couldn't go to nationals. Everything just went bye bye.
Yes, I remember that feeling. Although I haven't personally adopted the like meeting people with my feet thing yet, but I'm glad that that's become a new part of your sort of meeting people repertoire. John Paul, anything to add?
I was very slow on the uptake, but whenever it happened, I was just happy we got a week off of school, and after that, it just kept coming on, like no more weeks of school, and after a while, it got pretty boring just being in my house all alone.
Yeah, I understand that feeling of like, yes, no school, and then oh man, this is our new reality.
Yeah.
Christian, Susanna, other thoughts?
For me, the week before, like we started going into like shutdown, it was our school Special Olympics or district Special Olympics, and that was like the last big project where I remember, and like my phone gives me memories from like last year, and I'm like, wow, like nobody's wearing masks, like it feels like wrong to like see it like that. Especially from where I am in El Paso, we got hit pretty hard with COVID cases, so it's really weird to see all that. But I remember like always being on the edge of our feet, like because after the Special Olympics, it was spring break, and then we got another week of spring break, and then another week of spring break, and then Zoom classes, and so it was pretty good. Not good, but like you had to be good at being prepared for not knowing what's going to come.
Absolutely. Susanna, you get the last word on this.
Yes, I think I have to go with what Christian said. Sadly, I'm not very good at going good with what not knowing what's to come. And that week is just like after when I found out that we were just gonna get more weeks added to our spring break. It was kind of scary for me, like, because I like to know what's going on and everything getting shut down so quickly and not like you can't ask people questions because they've never been through it before. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have had to approach a situation that no one had ever experienced before from different levels, right? The amount of information that you have is different than the amount of information that your teachers have is different than this principal and different than the superintendent. So all those different layers, I think, definitely make it challenging. And that kind of leads me into our next question. So when that happened, everything had to go online, right? Everybody had to make pretty significant transitions from students to teachers to parents. And my question is, and I kind of want to facilitate this like a conversation so y'all can respond to what each other are saying. What were aspects of that transition that really worked, and what were some aspects that really didn't? And I'll invite Evelyn or John Paul. Do y'all want to weigh in first on that?
I can go first.
Thank you.
So what did our school districts did well? I would say nothing, which sounds very harsh,
Okay.
but um, it was kind of like at the end of the year or like of the school year, and then it's like we had like what a whole month of spring break, and then it was like April, and then it was like two more months until school was over with. So then like by that time I felt like students would be like, why go to school? Like through Zoom. It's like really going through a pandemic and then they still want us to go to school. I don't think that's how it works. Um so I think it was just the fact that like we had to go back to school through a pandemic, and then some like I'm pretty sure a lot of students can agree that like they just lost motivation to go to school. And even now, like I still like see a lot of students that they put other priorities like ahead of school, and I'm just like at this point they all just lost like they had have like this question of like what's the point of going through school when we're going through a pandemic right now? Work is more important. So it was kind of more like us going like virtually is with students that like we've never had to go through that. Like my whole middle school, elementary was like going to school every day, perfect attendance. But then all of a sudden we had to go through like virtually, and then it was like some kids will like probably be in their beds and in class, and then it was like or asleep and in class. But it was kind of like it was just like I guess a new whole like transition that I mean it's like a it's a work in progress. We're still not fully like used to it. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I heard you say a couple of things in there, Evelyn. One was that kind of right at the beginning, students were like, "Well, what's the point? Like, there's not very much time left in the school year anyway." And then it sounds like some of those feelings have kind of continued from the sort of like shock. Oh my gosh, we only have 3 months left from the beginning of the pandemic, and then we had all summer to plan, and then this school year started. And I wonder if y'all could talk a little bit about some of the pieces of that transition that you noticed entering into the 2020-2021 school year. Man, that's hard to say. And sort of which ones of those worked and which ones didn't.
Yes, I agreed with her with having no motivation to do schoolwork anymore. It was pretty hard because we just went from doing work class in school and then to online. It wasn't a good transition. I didn't really like it. And then it just felt like mountains of work whenever we got work, and I just didn't enjoy it very much. I lost a lot of motivation to do work, and that's all I can say.
So I kind of want to ask all y'all real quick, like nods, and I can ask John Paul and Evelyn to weigh in by yes or no. Does it feel like you are receiving more work virtually than you were in person? Like more things to do? Susanna's like, not really sure. Christian's like, yes, absolutely. Fernando's like 100%, right? And John Paul said that too. Do you think that feels like, is that just your impression? Or are you honestly for sure 100%, no doubt about it, receiving more things to do right now than you would be if you were in person?
Oops, go ahead, Christian.
Christian, you first, and then Susanna.
Okay. For me, it's just that usually when you'd be in person, you'd get an assignment and you'd be able to get like a week to do it, maybe like in a group project. But now online, I don't know if like teachers have to meet like a certain amount of assignments for like the grading period or something, but each day is an assignment. And when we're used to working one big assignment for like a longer period of time, so having each assignment every day, it kind of seems like it gets mundane because they're the same assignments over and over again. Like for English, it's find these literary elements in this essay. And then the next week, it's the same, it's a different story, same essay. And it just kind of gets, I don't know, for me, it gets boring.
Sure. Susanna, other thoughts on that?
I actually attend in person right now, so
Okay, cool.
I really like, yeah, and I feel like I did do online for a while last at the beginning of COVID, and I just didn't like I really like communication like with my teacher, like, and being online was really hard to do that. And if I did, it was like delayed. It was like, oh, she answered my question for my homework today, the next day. So I sympathize for y'all that are still online, but I can't really add much to that.
No, that's okay. We definitely want to hear some more like compare and contrast. So 100% want to come back and learn more about what your experience has been like. Fernando, do you have anything to add?
I do agree with Susanna about the communication thing. I mean, at the beginning, my school district was really good about the communication on how things were going to work. And at the beginning, you had 20, 30 kids logging into your Zoom. Then you do now, you have 3 or 5. Because now they know if they get the work done by midnight, they're counted present for the day. So now they're like, why am I going to show up? And at the beginning, it was a lot better because they didn't know that. So they'd show up thinking that was their attendance. And I want to say my school district did really good at the beginning because they were able to control that. And as we did get a lot of work, like Christian said, it's kind of all the same thing overs and overs. But it kind of helped us. But there was no group work like we used to do. There was no like those fun conversations in class where the teacher would join in. Now it's just like, here's your assignment, 1, 2, 3, ABC. That's what you're doing, and turn it in when you're done. And then when you're done, I'll give you 3 more assignments, and then turn that in when you're done. It's kind of just overs it just never stops.
Yeah, I can imagine how that sort of repetition would get really old really fast. Are there ways in which your teachers have, in the virtual world, right, tried to recreate that feeling of being in a classroom? Right? Obviously, it's challenging, and they're learning too about how they're supposed to. What are some of those techniques that have worked, and are there instances where they've attempted and really students haven't responded much in the same way as they would in a classroom?
I
Do you want me
can
to ask
go.
the question again? Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Evelyn.
Um, so um, my literature teacher, she's kind of very big on communication. So now that like everything is virtual, she's kind of like trying to figure out new ways on how we can communicate more efficiently. And one of the ways that she uses is a website called joinpeer.com, I think. Join Peer Deck. It's called like Peer Deck, something like that. Um, and basically, I really like the website because when it's like you join the class, kind of like this webinar, you join like the how do you say it, the PowerPoint. It's like the first question that I ask you is like, how are you feeling today? And I always like that. Like I tell like my friends, don't skip it, like answer it. This is like for your mental health. Um, so um, and then it's like a whole PowerPoint where it's like she asks you questions and you type in your answers, and then like she's reading your responses while we're going. So then it's kind of like a conversation but virtually. So she's like, you're responding to her question and she's like responding back to your answer, and then she's like, yes, I love that, yes, I agree with this. So it's like it's not a conversation like face to face, but I guess you can call it a conversation virtually where she's like responding to what you're saying. So I always do like that. And like how Suzanne say, I'm also an in-person student because virtual is not for me. I'm not that person. So I decided to go back, and it's like it's a I would say a different experience because of COVID. But I do like to talk to my teachers as well about how they have to change about like their lessons according to like the pandemic. And I say that like website like does help because it's like a whole PowerPoint and like you're having a conversation though virtually with your teachers.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Evelyn. It sounds like it's possible to build those experiences, but it takes a lot more presence from the teacher. It's not just like giving you the thing and saying, here, do this, let me know if you need help. They actually have to build a space for that conversation to happen. Would love to take an opportunity. I think we have a brand new guest who has joined us. Michael from Mathis ISD. Michael, can you come off mute and say hello? Right, may still be working on some technical difficulties. Michael, I think Jamie is talking to you right now. If y'all can figure out how to get you live and here, that would be amazing. Before I move us along, is there anything else that y'all would like to say about this idea of like things that worked as far as virtual goes, and then things that really didn't?
So I'm in an education and training class because my pathway is education right now. And my teacher, so she's the only class that we always have every student there. There's one or two missing sometimes, they're doing something. But it's gotten to a point where she uses Nearpod. And if you're virtually or you're in person, you're on that Nearpod. And we're answering those questions. She has those educational games on there. We're doing stuff like that. She's calling on us to read that slide. So it's gotten to a point where we're all comfortable with each other, even though we're virtually, that we all have our cameras on. We're really never muted. We're still having that conversation. So it feels like we're not virtual, that we're really in person. And it's kind of cool when you're virtual because you just see this for the kids that are there, but the kids that are at home, you get to see their whole face. So it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's really cool, but that's like the one and only class that has been able to do that with all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it sounds like it's a little bit of work. And it sounded like, did it take some time for that community to build online? Like, did it feel awkward at first?
So it did, but that was a class that we've started off our freshman year, and it moves us each year. So of course we knew each other, but it was kind of that oh, I'm at home and you're at school, we're all at home kind of thing. That was weird for the first 2-3 weeks. And then after that, we were like, oh, this is our new normal. We got to adapt to it. And we did. And now that class is my favorite class to go to, actually.
Cool. I'm really glad to hear that you're having that experience. So on the topic of teachers, would love to know, like, how do you think your teachers, or how have your teachers been impacted by this pandemic, the whole experience we've just gone through, and how can you tell? And I'll call on John Paul. Do you have something you would like to start us off with? I want to make sure we include you in the conversation.
Yes. Can you repeat that? So I'm pretty slow on the uptake.
You are not slow. You're going at just the right speed. How have your teachers been impacted by the pandemic, and how can you tell?
They use a lot of different sites to give us work. Like my math teacher for my physics. Oh, that isn't math. That's physics. She uses Khan Academy and something else. I think it was Study Sync on Hayes CISD link. She gives us work on 3 different websites, and it's just, I don't know, it just isn't very nice.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes, for like Khan Academy, like sometimes she'll give us work. It isn't every day, but every once in a while I'll see like a notification pop up for Khan Academy since I have the app. And then some like they give us like updates on Schoology to let us know that there's work on Study Sync, and then I'll have to go on there to go do some work.
Got it. Okay. It sounds like there's an awful lot of platforms that you're engaging with.
Yeah.
Susanna, would love to hear from you. What have you noticed about your teachers during this time?
They've actually been really stressed, I feel. I've seen, because at my school district, we have in person available. Like mostly everyone goes in person, but we also have the online option. So teachers are having to do double, like they're having to do their lesson for the in-person kids, but then also having it available to everyone who's online. So and they also had to like learn lots of new technology and how to, like how, I don't know, John Paul said, like work with a lot of platforms so that they can get the work that we all need. But yeah, I think they're getting used to it, but they're still a little more overwhelmed than they were in years past.
Got it. Other thoughts, y'all? Christian, Fernando.
For me, from what I've seen from teachers, is a lot of them that are still virtual, they have found ways to keep like students engaged, and that's like been their biggest struggle, I think, is trying to keep that engagement, not just with like personal conversations and like that personal aspect of school, but more so like trying to get your work done, because last year, like the last 3 months of school, attendance was counted by if you turned in the assignments, kind of like Fernando said. But now for like the whole year this year, students are counted if you show up to their Zoom class or something. Like you have to show that you were there and that you logged in order to get attendance. So they're trying to keep that engagement to keep attendance up, so that way they can keep, giving students that sort of, not connection, but like that communication, where if you have questions about your assignment, don't be afraid to ask, because most of the time students get afraid to ask questions because all you see is little anonymous people, the little picture, but they get scared to ask questions because I feel they're scared of just like speaking up and then their voice being the only one that's there because the teacher's talking. So I feel like that's kind of been one of their main struggles, is trying to keep engagement up.
I would have to say that it is very stressful for the teachers, and I think it's I think it's stressful for them because they've never done it and they're getting instructions from like the superintendents and all the higher ups, but it's like you haven't been in the class, you haven't tried teaching virtual. When you were teaching back then, it was all in person, so that's what you're used to, and now they're trying to give instruction on virtual, and it's like, okay, you don't know what works and what doesn't work. I'm not saying you really don't know what works, but it's the teachers that have been in there. And that's the problem with my district, I know, because they're getting all these instructions from all the higher ups, but it's not working because the teachers are the ones that are going to know what's working. And I think that's what really stresses the teachers out, is they're trying to do what they're told, but then they're trying to do what's best for the students also, because that's their main priority right now.
Yeah,
I would,
I'm,
sorry.
go
Um,
ahead.
I would have to agree. Well, I have to agree with everybody. But mainly with Fernando, with what he's saying about the higher ups. I think personally that I feel like my teachers have been able to handle the whole virtual thing. Um, it hasn't been easy, and I can see like how Suzanne says that most of them have been very stressful, but also what Fernando says that um it's kind of like the higher ups are giving, oh, you have to use this platform and you have to use this platform. But then when they go and try to use the platform, I feel like some of my teachers don't even know how to use the platforms. And I'm just like, how do you expect them to use them when they don't even know how to use them? So um, I know like the teachers, they know what to use, like what website to use or what where to share their like notes on best, because it's like they're doing the work. They're the ones that have to like accommodate to like how we have to learn now, because how Fernando said, this is like our new normal. So it's like I feel like you can't really give orders to people when it's like you haven't been in the position and haven't actually been like there. So being able to like, you know, see the different like things that teachers are going through, and then talking to them, like us as students as well, talking to them and asking like, okay, how did this work? Or like us giving them their opinion, like, okay, this didn't work as well as the other platform, so maybe try to use this one, or like this one really works, so like keep using this one. Because I remember like one of my teachers, he was like, I went and asked all of your other teachers. I went to ask your pre-cal teacher. I went to ask your physics teacher. I went to ask your literature teacher, like what platforms they use, because mine doesn't seem to work. And then I would tell them, oh, well, you know, my math teacher uses this platform, or like my physics teacher uses this platform, this platform. So like getting your opinions like from different like perspectives always helps. So I would think that like not just shooting and being like, okay, you got to use this like as an order, but instead like try to figure out what works best with your students, and keeping how Chris said, that engagement there, because if that engagement is not there, then it's like useless.
Evelyn, you just dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on us, and I really appreciate that. Would love to ask Michael, do you have anything that you would like to add here to things you've noticed from your teachers?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, that's good. I really just have to add that, you know, student engagement is really important. Whenever our school year started, it was all virtual, right? And going into my classes, it was just, everyone was bored, right? Really tired. You could tell we were all sleepy being in our rooms, and, you know, so I was that guy that really tried to crack jokes and like talk to people. I found that talking to each other as if you're in person really makes everybody kind of be there in the moment. You know what I mean? Instead of being distant, kind of like how we were talking about earlier. And you know, just being normal, acting as if nothing's wrong, really makes a difference.
Interesting. So this idea of like, listen, this is how things are, and we can respond by either like being weird and turning our cameras off and ignoring each other, or we can respond by interacting as if we were real human beings. Yeah, I love that. So y'all, one question that I like, well, it is a phrase that I hear students say a lot. And so I was a teacher for 4 years in Dallas ISD. My students said this all the time, and it always kind of struck me because I don't remember saying it when I was in school. It's this idea of like, do your work. Like the most important thing at school is to like do the work that is assigned. And so I have these like two things in my head. There's the work that is assigned, and then there is what I see as sort of like the point of school, which is to make you a better human, make you more likely to be successful as you like enter into the real world, and like make you more able to create the life that you want for yourself. Can you guys talk about either the difference or the similarities between those two things, right? Are there pieces of work that you get where you're like, yes, I can tell this is important and I'm going to do it because it matters to me? And are there pieces of work that you're just like, I'm going to do this because someone told me it was necessary?
Oof, you just like threw a very like, how do I say it? A very, very, I would say controversial topic. I would say that's
Okay.
the best way to use it because it's like if you ever hear two students like sitting down and having this conversation, you will mainly like hear these students say, "Oh yeah, I'm just doing the work because I need to pass my class and I need my GPA to really be up there." And then when you go to like teachers, they're like, "Oh yeah, when I was back in my days, I had to do this and I had to do that." And then it's like it's nothing different, it's the same. So it's like at this point we're like in a position where like our educational system like in a way is failing us because it's like we're missing so many things that we need to learn that when we go into the real world we're like, oh well, I never learned this in school, which was I should have learned in school, but I didn't because apparently algebra was more important than learning how to be able to get a bank account. So it's like at this point we're just like, especially through this pandemic, I hear so many people it's like they just give up. Like I know so many seniors, like top 10% of their class, and like we have a chat, like we have this Instagram chat, and most of them are just like, at this point I'm just trying to graduate, I'm just trying to get my work in, I'm just trying to get out of high school. So it's like I feel like this pandemic has not helped students like feel like school is something important and feel like, hey, like it's something I enjoy, going to school, waking up every morning, going to school, speaking to like different people, listening to different people, listening to my teachers, creating a connection with my teachers. I feel like they've lost that. They've lost how we're going back to like the motivation to be like, hey, I want to go to school and I want to like, grow those connections with like everybody, with like people from different like countries, people with like so many different, with like a school of diversity, because I come from like a school that is very diverse. Like, so it's like we've all lost that, where it's just like we want to go to school because we enjoy going to school and because there's good things that the school is like offering us, but now it's like we're going there because we just want to graduate and we just want to do the work and we just want to get go move on to the next step of our lives, I would say. So it's like it's a very controversial topic.
Well, it sounds like you have some thoughts on it. Y'all, other thoughts? I want to make sure, John Paul, do you have anything that you'd like to add there?
Yes. Thank you, Evelyn. You give me a lot of things to talk about when I talk after you. I have like half given up. The only thing that keeps me to do my work is my mom. She lets me know when I have my work due. And yeah, it's just like like I've pretty much given up at this point. Uh, yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment.
That's all right. I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry that's the experience that you're having. Other thoughts, y'all? Responses to either what John Paul said or what Evelyn said?
I would have to say it's kind of like so I don't know how many seniors are on here, but they kind of have that thing like a senioritis. Well, at this point, you don't know if it's the senioritis or if it's because you're virtual, and it's like, do I really want to do that, or do I need to do that? Is that going to really help me? I I I think about that actually a lot when I'm looking at an assignment. I'm like, how is this going to help me? Like, I don't really need this. But yet I do it because it's something you have to do, because if not, then your GPA goes down, and then that's not great for you when you're looking to go into colleges. And it's more of like you have to do it than if you want to do it or if it's going to help you improve anything.
Sure. One, like I talked about how like I didn't hear the phrase like do your work a lot when I was in high school. I 100% heard the phrase senioritis and deeply understand that feeling. So like I think that those are potentially two different things for sure. Other thoughts, Christian, Susanna?
Going off of like senioritis, like yeah, it's kind of hard to differentiate whether it's just because you're a senior and you're already like on the way out, or whether it's just because you're virtual and it's because COVID made virtual class not what it like used to be. Because kind of going off of like what other people were saying about how like assignments are just like, here, get it done. the fun part about like in-person school was that you were with your friends, so it made it fun to be able to like do the assignments. So you were able to like conversate and get to like find a meaning from there through people. Now you just get the assignment and you don't get like some sort of background lesson, I guess, something to go with that because you're not with other people like you normally would be. And although you could probably find ways to get around that, you know, group chats and all that, I know I've done that. I've made group chats with my friends in certain classes, and we always talk about each other. We're like, hey, you get this? Did you understand that? And we always try to find a meaning behind it, but it's kind of hard to do that now. And I don't know. I've kind of going on what John Paul was saying. I kind of have lost motivation for school as well. Well, maybe not like completely lost motivation for it. I keep going and I make sure my grades are up, but perhaps where school last year may have been 75% my priority, it's definitely dwindled down.
Okay, I'd like to add that just I think that the virtual concept is a big factor in the lost motivation in school because I'm a very people person and I honestly don't know how I would have done this a whole almost school year virtually without people and face to face with teachers. So I realize I'm very lucky for that. But just like the classes I'm taking junior year, I often hear lots of people say you take very hard classes your junior year, and I'm taking a few AP classes and a few college classes, so I can't imagine doing these virtually without being able to talk to my teacher. And I don't know, I feel like this year has really sparked something in my desire for education, and that might just be my opinion, but I do sometimes lose motivation, but I also see it as right now in high school, you really have to get like an education that's just very I don't know the word broad, I guess. And then like once I just keep the thought that keeps me going is in college I'm gonna get to just have a schedule full of classes I love, and I just got to get through this first, and then I can go and do whatever I want, and it'll something that I enjoy. So if that's something that'll keep y'all hanging on, hopefully that help y'all a little.
Yeah, I really appreciate two things that like really stick out to me in particular. One, Christian, you talked about like constructing meaning together. And that's not something that I had thought about, how like a meaningless worksheet can actually become meaningful if you are like tackling it with other folks. And I had not really considered that. So thank you for that. And then Susanna, your commentary on school being or high school being sort of like this thing you have to do in order to so that you can get to things you want to do. I understand that mindset, and as an adult who cares deeply about like the experience of high schoolers, my hope is that we can move it so that both those things can be true. That you can have a broad experience that is also meaningful, and then you get to go do more specific things that are indeed meaningful as well. So I want to shift this a little bit, y'all. MASBA, the Mexican American School Board Association, this group that you're talking to, is especially interested in closing gaps between student groups. Like we know that school is not experienced by everyone in the same way. There are some folks for whom school works really well, and I'm not talking about just pandemic school, I'm talking about all school forever, right? There are some groups of students for whom school has done exactly the thing that we think it's supposed to do, and there are other students who come out and have not had that same experience. So my question for y'all is, what groups of students have you noticed being impacted the most, and how can you tell? And I'll invite our folks who are on the phone, John Paul, Michael, Evelyn, if y'all want to weigh in first.
I would say elementary kids and freshmen.
Say more about that.
So, I have two little brothers at home.
Okay.
My little brother, let me tell you this. He loves his video games. So he can't be in class because he's playing video games. So I feel like I look at him and I'm just like, you're failing your classes and what, you're in fourth grade? How is that even possible? So I'm just like, I feel this pandemic has affected like our younger generations a lot because they're like at this point where they're just like they don't see the meaning of education, and I'm just like, you're not like, usually, because I feel like elementary, like that's the place where you, I would say, grow or like learn the more like meaningful things. So it's like putting like more attention into like elementary students, I feel like it's something like that we have to do like as older people. And I'm just saying this because I'm going for an education major, like in teaching, so like, um but I look at my little brother and I'm just like, you do realize you need this for fifth grade and sixth grade and high school, right? But you're not learning because you're in this class where the teacher's not looking, the teacher's not like right there looking at you. So you're like instead like playing video games, playing Roblox. So I'm just like, you you're like losing the things that you actually do need in life, because yeah, when you get to high school there's some things that you like rethink, you're like, do I really need this? But in elementary it's like you need to learn how to read and write English, like that's you need to do that, like you need to learn that. So I feel like elementary students, and then going to freshmen, like they're going through a transition when there's like they're going from middle school to high school, and then it's like, but like their high school like experience is going to completely change because they're going into high school through like a virtual lens, and most freshmen are like, in my school they're virtual. So it's like their teachers can't be there giving them the attention that they need so that they can grow as people. So I feel like freshmen are struggling the most, because us seniors, like we don't need someone to be like over our shoulders like, you got to do this, because we're leaving already. But freshmen, it's like they need more attention. They're just like, okay, you have 4 years in high school, you need to figure out what you want to do by the end of these 4 years. And if you decide that going to the workforce, the army, to college, that you need to think of all these things before you leave like high school. So I believe that freshmen, now that they're just like through a computer, like I don't know this, my teacher is always says like, I don't know these kids. I just think of them like as people, like on like little, like, on my computer. Like I don't even, sometimes I don't even think they're people. They're just there on my computer. So it's like freshmen, it's like I feel like they're gonna lose the impact of like high school. That's the best way I can put it. Yeah.
I think that's a very good way to put it. Really appreciate those thoughts. John Paul, Michael, anything to add?
Yes, sir. So I have a lot of friends whose families kind of rely on them for chores and taking care of brothers and sisters, right? Well, this kind of affects them a lot more, considering that when you don't have an 8-hour school day or however long your school day is to pull you away from home and you're on a virtual meet, well, you're home. So your parents are still going to look at you like you can help. So even though you're in class or something, oftentimes um, your parents or whatever have you will go into your room and require your attention, even though you're in the middle of class. And I found that that can really like harm some people, because I've never had that. My family's not like that. I've never had to, um, my mom understands it's a school day, it's the middle of the day, I'm doing stuff. But some families, if they need your help, they need your help.
Really appreciate that. Susanna, I saw you nodding your head like, mm-hmm. You want to talk about that?
I agreed with him. I mean, I don't, I've never really had to experience that, but I do know have a lots of friends that endure that. And some of them even like, since our district gives them the choice to be online, a lot of, some of my peers have to go to work. And so they do their assignments, they go to work and then they do their assignments later, right before they're due, just to help provide for their family. Some of them have, I was also going to say some of their families are like immunocompromised. Is that the word? I think, yeah, like they're so they have to be extra precautious about where they go, what they do, because of the virus. And then that takes away from their focus on their education. And also low income families who really can't afford to be put on quarantine or miss 2 weeks of work. And so, yeah, like lots of my friends have to be just extra precautious and not fully engaged in their education because they're having to worry about their family. So that's
Absolutely. Other thoughts on this topic, y'all? different groups of folks who have been impacted differently. Fernando,
I would
you
have
got
to
something?
say I would have to say I agree with Evelyn. I think that's who said it. It's more of like the younger groups, because she's right. Like the freshmen, they didn't get to experience what everyone else did, like the fun pep rallies and how high school really is, how it really is fun. They're seeing it right now as, oh, I just log into my Zoom and I do my schoolwork. And there's much more to that. It's more of like high school year for me, my freshman and sophomore year. Beginning of my junior year was like the best time that I've ever had in school. It was fun. We'd always have activities, and it just never stopped. It was something almost every other week. And we'd go to the elementaries and read to them every month. We'd go to our different ones, and then we go to our middle schools. We'd get involved in their pep rallies, and we'd go out and join their classes, tell them what they can expect in high school. And now you don't have that. It's kind of like it's the same thing over. You just log into your Zoom or your Google Meet and you go to class. You don't have any of that. Oh, let's do this and let's make it fun. It's not. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. John Paul, I'm not sure if I asked you on this one. Is there something you'd like to say before I move on?
No, I don't really have anything else to say. They all had like really good ideas about of what people were affected by it.
Awesome. So y'all, we're approaching the end of our time together, and I want to ask you my favorite question. So the work that my organization has been doing over the course of this pandemic is trying to teach adults how to have conversations like these. Adults who are in positions of decision making, because across the state, in schools, whether it's in a classroom or in the office or in the administration building, there are a whole bunch of questions that adults have about how school is working. And a lot of times when they get with students, sometimes they don't ask the right ones. And so I'd like to ask you guys, like and we have a whole bunch of superintendents and a whole bunch of school board members on our call today, if an adult or adults really wanted to know how to support, I don't want you to give them advice. It's not your job to solve the problems. What questions should they be asking? And who should they be asking them to?
I think they should ask questions like, how can we help you just make it easier for you, or how can we make this a lot more fun and more engaging?
Okay, so asking about ease of contact and communication, and potentially about engagement. Other thoughts, y'all?
I agree with those two questions, but it's also like maybe have the teacher ask, because we have a relationship with our teachers. We see them every day. We don't really have a relationship with you, so I'm not going to feel open to actually tell you. Where if my teacher asks, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, and if it's good, bad. But you, I'm just going to tell you what you want to hear.
Interesting. That's a really great point. It's not just about what you're asking, it's about who's asking it. And if I haven't built a relationship or trust with you, I may not give you the whole scoop. Yeah, absolutely. Other thoughts, y'all?
I would agree with I think Fernando said that right. Cause like how Christian said, how he said like his favorite extracurricular activity outside the pandemic was the student council. I'm also a member of the student council, and then there's many times where like my teachers are like, "Oh, you have to go talk to the principal," and I'm like, "The principal? I don't think I want to do that." So I feel like um that to build that trust and that like safe environment for your students, like because usually like the people who built that are the teachers, so it's like it's more about like the teachers asking us questions like, you know, how are you feeling, how is your day, or like how is your family going through this pandemic, or is your family safe? And I feel like it's not just the teachers, it's also us as students, like us opening up. And like this is a very good like thing to ask, because I remember the other day I was in a student council meeting and one of the members was like, if you don't speak up, we can't offer you the resources the school has. And I felt like she hit a very good point, because most students don't want to speak up because they're afraid and they're scared and they feel like ashamed and embarrassed. And I'm just like, no, 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 no. This is a safe environment. So you need to speak up, because there are many resources that like the school has that you're probably not even aware of, but like they're here for you. So use them to the fullest. So it's more about like us as well, like as students putting in our, part of the effort, and asking, like approaching people like that we believe we trust, and also like the teachers asking us like, are you sure like you don't need my help, because I have, I can help you with this, I can help you with that. Like you just need to ask me and tell me. So I believe it's that.
I think you hit on a couple of really key points there, Evelyn. One of the things that sticks out to me is this idea that the environment in which students are existing in many cases is one where feelings like fear and shame and guilt start to arise. And whereas I will absolutely agree with you that it's important for students to ask for help, I will also suggest that it is adults' job to set up an environment in which those are not things that students feel. That's our job, to set up an environment where you feel safe and comfortable and not full of fear or shame about having to ask for help. But I deeply appreciate those sentiments. Other thoughts, y'all? Questions that adults should be asking? Or if you want to respond to Evelyn, please go ahead. Susanna.
I think it's very important to also ask many different groups of students, because if you just base it on one group of students, they might all have the same opinion, and you won't get the diverse answer you're looking for, the one that fits all the students in your district or school.
Yep, really appreciate that. Christian, Michael, last words here.
Going off of what Evelyn kind of said with student council, sometimes we have to speak to our principal and we get scared with that. And something that a bunch of students have come together to do is form a school organization where leaders from like every club in the school, so like your football captain, your student body president, your NHS president, all leaders from there, they communicate with other students and they talk to teachers, and they relay all that. We meet again all together with the principal and other assistant principals or counselors or what have you. And we all just speak about like what we think our school needs or what students need just to be able to get through the day. And it's something that's been working out really good. But more specifically to your question, with questions that the adults should be asking is like, what do you need? Like, what can we offer you that can help make your day a little bit better? Not like a boring day where you go from an hour and a half on Zoom, or if you're in person, just questions about like what we can do for you, just a general ask, because often a cold ask gets you a lot of answers.
Really appreciate that's wisdom. Michael, if you got something, you get the last word. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap us up.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Really being open and not being afraid to be honest and talk about issues that you think the school has. It's a big part of just speaking to your teachers and people that are part of administration. But I agree that when you're speaking to teachers or whenever administrators are trying to learn about the problems going on in a district, I think they really have to be open and honest. Two things that maybe adults aren't always the best at, but I do think that it's a very big part of trying to solve a problem.
Really appreciate that, y'all. Well, I'm about to wrap us up here and turn it back over to Jamie. Jamie, can I have 30 seconds to tell him about something that makes me hopeful?
Go for it. Take 45.
All right, 45 seconds it is. So y'all, Representative Tallarico from outside of Austin submitted a bill last Friday that would require the state to first recognize students as partners in their education. It would also require the TEA to train educators and administrators on how to do some of these things that you're talking about, how to authentically partner with students, how to listen, like that group that Christian is talking about, and not just to listen, but how to ensure that the decisions that they make actually respond to the challenges that students brought up, because that's the worst thing, to be asked for your feedback and then have nothing happen because of it. So would love to invite all of you to support that initiative, and there'll be some information in your follow-up email from Jamie about it. Other than that, I am so grateful to have been here. Students, thank you so much for letting me hang out with you guys. And Jamie, it's all yours.
Thank you. What a pleasure to have you with Mr. Oberly. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your willingness to facilitate this conversation on student voice and experience during this pandemic. And to all of our students, to Susana of Plainview ISD in West Texas, Fernando, Southwest ISD in San Antonio, Christian in El Paso ISD, Evelyn, Houston ISD, John Paul in Hayes CISD outside of Austin, and Michael in Mathis ISD in South Texas. We so greatly appreciate you taking time from your spring break to be able to share with us some perspectives on how it's been to be a student during this pandemic. We're going to invite our sponsor, Jenny, if she's still with us, to come back on camera and to be able to share her own reflection on this experience and some final words as well. We just want to give a shout out to all our friends at Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russell, and Kyle for their support, not only on this webinar, but they've been longtime friends and supporters of MASBA and of our school districts. Jenny, what do you think of this group?
My gosh, I mean, I have no worries about the future of this state or of this country. I think you guys are definitely a reflection of the brightest and the best that I have seen. And I'm just thankful to have been able to listen to it. As a mom, I took down a lot of questions, and I'm very excited about what you all bring and what you offer and the insight that you gave us today. And I think it's just invaluable. So thank you very much. And the best of luck to you under what are very extenuating circumstances that you guys have just kicked it out of the park. You've been amazing.
Thank you, Jenny. Please share our gratitude with all our friends at Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russo, and Kyle. We love y'all and are so glad that y'all support our mission, our students, and our scholarship program. We want to invite you to spread the word and join us again next Monday. We have 4 more Mondays left in this webinar series. Also, we're spreading word that pre-registration is open for our annual MASBA conference in San Antonio on September 9 through 12. So due to the pandemic, we are looking forward to coming together after we have enough shots in arms in September. So spread word. You can register at masbatx.org/conference. We're also excited to announce that our newest book, Celebrating 50 Years of Closing Gaps in Our Texas Public Schools, is now available on Amazon. You can find that link at masbatx.org/books. Enjoy your spring break. We'll look forward to being back with you all next Monday. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye, have a good day.